PhD in Progress, Episode 17. This week, Haley and I have a laid-back, honest discussion about how imposter syndrome has influenced our lives. Let's go! Cruelty-free.
Cruelty-free, yeah. Gluten-free.
Obviously.
We're not barbarians. That's why we're friends.
That's why we're friends. All right, welcome back to the PhD in Progress podcast, where we talk about your education, your career, and your life. I'm Jason, and today...
I'm Haley.
Today, she's Haley.
I'm hailing most days, actually.
She's Haley most days. So I'm here with Haley because we wanted to talk about imposter syndrome. I think it's something that I had to deal with a lot, mostly throughout my life, especially in grad school.
Yes.
And how about you, Haley?
Yeah, I think I also fall into the same category of...
Life and grad school?
Impostering my way through most things.
Yeah, you impostor your way through your PhD.
Yeah, right through my defense, even.
So you're a nice, awesome fake doctor.
Right.
And one day they will...
Yeah, it's those fake doctors.
They will come back and be like, nope, you don't deserve this.
Retract that paperwork.
Retract it. Strike it.
Yeah.
The last 6 years of your life don't count.
Actually, yeah. Yes, it's...
Actually, yes.
I'm pretty sure they do count.
Well, yeah, years-wise, but not education.
Not education-wise. I'm not a...
You're not a real doctor.
Is it like one real person year is like 4 grad student years or something?
True?
I don't know.
It could be.
It was in one of the holiday skits. Bonnie said it.
Oh, boy. It could be true.
You should link that one.
Oh, yeah. One day I'll link all the, our videos from holiday sketches and everything. That's beside the point. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. I'm going to imposter my way through a podcast. Let's see if I can do it.
Yep.
So what is imposter syndrome? What does it mean to you, Haley?
It's the pervasive idea that you are where you are through some luck or scenario that has nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with, your ability.
My abilities or skills or intelligence or any of that. So, getting into my undergrad institution, getting into Princeton, it's just the application was in the wrong pile. They meant to shred it, but it actually went into the accept this
student.
When
that happens.
Yeah, right. Please shred this student.
Yeah, some poor schmo in the office is like, why is this here? Oh, well, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah, but, it's... Oh. So every failure in life and lab, and if you're a grad student, there's many, it just sort of falls back onto the idea that, oh, I'm not even supposed to be here. Of course this is going to happen.
Every failure, and even, the success. It's going to happen anyway, no matter who did this.
Sure, right. I came up with this great experiment, and it was fantastic and gave me the exact result. Well, that was just chance or
and
luck.
Anyone else could have done that, right?
Yeah, simply anyone standing in the same spot could have accomplished the same thing. Which, of course, is not true.
Yeah, it's a huge discount to your life experience in general.
Yeah. So, I struggle with this, and my husband always brings it up. It's like, well, just look at the facts. They're not going to let you into grad school unless they think you can do it. Mm-hmm. Because it's a huge financial risk. If you are a department in an institute of higher learning, you're making a big commitment to educate and house and ensure and train this body. So it's in your best interest not to let some schmo walk in the door and suck up the spot for someone else. Yeah. So... that's one level, and then here we have our qualifying exam, which we just called generals, and that, aside from getting into grad school, that's another stressful hurdle, because how it works at Princeton is you sort of do this qualifying exercise up front, and then by the time you get to your thesis defense, the champagne is already on ice. You've already done the hard part. The general sort of is I guess kind of, if you're from the administrative perspective, it's your last chance to weed out the knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Uh,
So speaking of generals, in this episode we're just going to be chatting about imposter syndrome a bit. Because we just decided to do it. Why not?
Just
it's something... Well, it's
what
something,
else would you do on a Monday?
It's something I always wanted to talk about, but could never really think of a good way to. And I finally had the chance to sit down with Haley, who has been alongside me most of the time through grad school, and been the person I could talk to openly the most, I think, about like what I was feeling and everything throughout the whole time. So it makes it a little easier to talk about what I've experienced through imposter syndrome.
Right, because we've both been boneheads together in grad school.
Felt like it.
Yeah. It feels like it, but meanwhile you're doing like cutting edge research and making a difference.
Okay, in our class, which one of the first courses we took was this genetics of prokaryotic organisms.
See how much we were paying attention?
Yeah, whatever it was about. I don't know.
It's just everyone just calls it proks.
Proks.
So.
And we had one friend. Well, to me, there were like two people in the class who were clearly super amazing at bacterial genetics, and anything they got asked, they would have a great answer for.
Yeah, I think
meanwhile,
one of them's defending at the end of the month, correct? If we're talking about the same person.
And the other one has been on the podcast before.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. And meanwhile, I struggled through those papers just to understand what they're trying to do, and even when I thought I had it down, like, class came and these people answered questions I would never have a chance to. I'm like, how am I even in the same course as these people who know everything, to my eyes, anyway?
Yeah, so after the first week of classes, someone who I got a hold of someone who I graduated with from undergrad, who was also starting her own PhD program somewhere else. And I was like, did we learn anything? Like, how do these people know so much about all these subjects? Like, what happened?
Yeah, like
during our undergrad
was
degree?
My program just really bad in biology? Could be. I don't know. Why'd they let me in? I don't know. Turns out no. We didn't like totally not pay attention all through undergrad. It's just you're sitting right next to an outlier who's a rock star, and having the rock stars in your life, I guess for some people it can it probably drives some people crazy, but for me it was inspiring. And then I count these people as my friends too. Yeah. So it's like I'm not intimidated by them. But there's just this flavor of, what? How does your brain work like that? And so maybe a lot of other programs, even outside of sciences, have this course that your whole class takes together, and you're able to bond because it's hard or, it's strenuous, whatever. You're reading the same papers every night all together. I think this course really helped us because I got to talk to that guy who was rocking out every question, and he was super helpful and wanted to help everyone. Yeah. So we'd lead discussions and everything, and then I got to see, he's just a guy who actually happened to study more of this as an undergrad than I had any chance to. Right. And then when the coin flipped and the next semester was a different course that I was actually way more familiar with than almost anyone else I knew. Right. Things came to me more naturally. And it's like, oh, you know what?
Maybe I'm not
I'm not a moron. We're not morons.
Jason and I G-chat each other every day, almost.
Yeah, it feels
in all caps. We are not morons.
Yeah, even if having a bad day... Well, this is when we do it. When we're having a bad day, we're like, I can't believe I did this stupid thing on my experiment and I ruined everything. Right. Haley texts back, or Haley writes back, we're not morons!
It's like, I forgot the ladder from my Gill for this important thing. We're not morons.
Oh, and those are the worst, though.
Yeah, you try to only make those mistakes once or twice.
Yeah. Try to make every mistake. No, don't try to make every mistake. If you make a mistake, try to only do it once or twice.
Yeah, I have a magnet on my fridge at home that says, always make new mistakes.
That's good.
So, you can make them, just make sure you're not doing the same dumb thing over and over again.
That's perfect. That's really important in everything you do.
Life.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Uh-huh. So, I I guess talking about imposter syndrome, I think I've experienced this. Now we're going to get a little personal, I guess. So I am a man who is multiracial, who grew up in an upper middle class white town, who never had... I never saw a guy who looked like me, or a woman who looked like me, some skin color, or ethnicity, or background, whatever. I didn't have any teachers like that until my senior year of high school.
Just exactly when you needed a strong
just after yeah. Perfect, right? Early on.
Yeah.
You know, when scientists... And, you know, you say scientists now and you think of Albert Einstein or a dude who looks like him in a white coat with a beaker.
Something that's a colored, not a colorless solution.
So this whole time, when I'm thinking I want to be a scientist, but wait, I don't know anyone who looks like me that's a scientist. It's so weird to think about. And then on the other side, you get... I don't know, as a kid... I'm so mixed, but the majority of my background is my dad is African American, my mom's Puerto Rican. So the only role models I had to look up to through the media were, you know, basically musicians, artists, or athletes.
Athletes, yeah.
The only people I knew of at the time, anyway.
Sure, right.
I wish Neil deGrasse Tyson was around. Oh man. That would have been amazing.
That's my husband's pass.
Yeah.
Some people have celebrity passes.
And your husband gets
That's
to
my husband's
have
pass.
a romantic getaway with
exactly.
when they just talk about
we love that guy.
Astrophysics.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What are you talking about? Star stuff?
Star stuff. Leave us alone. Oh.
Sorry. Derail.
No, that's great.
Total derail.
Knowing that and going into undergrad and such, I didn't have many good role models, and not that you need a role model, it just makes things easier, right? It just...
Right, so instead of, like, you're totally captaining your own ship, there isn't even a template to work off of.
Yeah.
Which has got to be terrifying.
Mm-hmm. And I never had it be, like... It was never quite a negative thing. It was just the lack of a positive thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't that I was always discouraged from it. It was more that it would have been cool to have, like, lack of a better term, like an older brother or someone who could drag me through the experiences somehow.
Yeah.
Or look up to, be like, oh, you know, you can do this too, it doesn't really matter.
That's great.
You can go to grad school too, enjoy.
Yeah.
But how has imposter syndrome manifested for you? Did you have it early on too? You have an awesome story of when you wanted to become a biologist.
I wanted to be a biologist since I was 6, and I have the evidence because my neighbor was throwing out a bunch of old books, and I went through them and I found this like really old school biology textbook. And, of course, I wrote my name in it and the date. So it's October 30th, 1991. So I was 6, and that's what I wanted to do.
Was it cute? Did it have, like, backwards... Wait, backwards L's? No.
No, I was able to write my name properly at 6. Yeah. Yes, this is what I've wanted to do, and I have been lucky enough to have a track record of decide something and then work my butt off until I get what I want. Which,
When you say it like that, how do you have imposter syndrome? You sound...
Right, yeah. Well, that's skipping over all the sleepless nights and the quiet moments of, what am I thinking? Like, there's no way this is gonna work. So, yeah, it's this dichotomy between wanting something really badly and being terrified of it not actually happening. Because, someone has screwed up the paperwork.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I had the second half of that thought, but it impostered on out of it.
When you impostered on out of it. So you knew what you wanted from an early age. You kind of had this drive, although you were
I mean, it
You
didn't
kind of fell into pits sometimes.
Yeah,
and
it
you
didn't.
had your triumphs.
It didn't always manifest itself as a drive. There was a period of time when I was such a bad student. My mom got our babysitter from up the street, different house than the one that was throwing out the books, to come tutor me, and she went on to Brandeis and is now a math teacher in the New York Public School District. But she was such an inspiration. So I went from wanting to be a scientist, which to me I didn't see the connection between schoolwork and science.
Yeah, you just go in the lab.
Yeah, right.
Make science happen.
I would request that my mom take me to the hospital so that I wouldn't have to do homework, because that...
Man.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to do this. And it took a little while to realize that, if you do well in school, this goal that you have is going to be a heck of a lot easier.
Yes. True.
True. Yeah, and then pretty much since then, I was a mostly good student, but in grad school, there's definitely, alright, so there's whatever the normal distribution of IQ is in the population. And yes, IQ is not the best way to measure intelligence, blah, blah, blah. Just hear me out.
Yeah, sports ability is. Let's go. Sorry. Sports ball.
Yeah, sports ball. So it's whatever the bell curve is in the general population. And then in grad school, that bell curve's probably shifted over towards the high side. And I never really counted myself as anywhere close to the high side of any of these IQ bell curves. Right, but how I sort of rationalized how I got to this position was, I just want it really badly. So I never really forced myself to think about where I actually truly sit on the IQ spectrum.
Yeah.
Just say, well, whatever that is, I'm sure it can't be that impressive, but I just really want to be a scientist. And then just work my butt off and do that. Just write your thesis.
That's good. Yeah,
And then you're done.
Well, that's what I'm working on. Jeez, you sound like my inner voice every morning when I wake up. Hey,
Just
Jason.
write your thesis.
Just write your thesis.
Yep.
5 a.m. Let's go.
Easier
What do you wait
said than done.
Yeah. I guess for me... Oh, man. Yeah, personal. Okay, so... Bearing my soul a little bit to the internet and the 2 listeners.
There's dozens of us.
Yeah,
Dozens.
Dozens. Thankfully, this is not a video podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of flapping
A
around.
lot of never nudes. Right?
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome tended to manifest itself most for me while I was in college. When I was in college, like studying, I was undergrad, biomedical science. I was in a lab with like cool friends who were. It wasn't a big research school, so that didn't matter so much. But I opted to. I wanted to do research a little bit and figure out what it was like. At that point, I was like, maybe I'll be professor or whatever.
Right.
And then I had these feelings of, you know what? I got into this pretty awesome school as an undergrad. And it was kind of, to me, it was like kind of easy to get into. It's not like a top well-known school or anything. Definitely not for what I was what I was studying.
Right.
But I'm like, this was kind of easy-ish. And then I was thinking back to, alright, so I'm gonna bear a little more of my soul than I was planning to.
In the Wayback Machine?
Way back. When I was applying to college, I applied to the undergrad I went to, Penn State, Temple, and Rutgers. And my undergrad was Rochester Institute of Technology. RIT, nerdiest school in the country. I'm very proud of it.
Woo!
But,
Go Tigers.
so RIT is the one I wanted to go to, and I got into it. I got into all of them, and it was like no problem, because they weren't like any of the hardest schools to get into.
Oh, right.
And
You're even impostoring yourself right now.
Yes. No, I know. This is the terrible part of it, though.
Yeah.
But one of my biggest regrets was that I didn't apply to one of the top schools because the people I was close to at the time, they were applying to those schools, like Princeton, where we're at now.
So you hamstrung yourself from the beginning.
Yeah, and I was like, if this person doesn't get into Princeton, I would feel horrible if I got in, especially because if it was like an affirmative action thing. And that's kind of what took me for a while. I was like, if I get in, she is way smarter than me, and she didn't get in.
But that,
why?
I understand
why did I get in?
Right, those thoughts, but there would be no way of knowing.
There would be no way, but exactly. Right. That's the problem.
Okay, then that is the uncertainty that is the scary part.
So that was the biggest thing that got me for the longest time. And in college, I got to do summer research gigs through this awesome organization, which I love. It's called the Leadership Alliance, and it helps minority students and underserved students get research opportunities at these big schools. So I got to do NYU and Princeton, 2 different summers. They're really supportive. They help you understand what research is like at a big institution. They help you figure out, are you better going to grad school or med school? How can we help you apply to these things? And I did these programs, and at the same time, I'm like, am I just getting these because of my skin color and who my parents were? I don't know. So that was one of the biggest
I'll bet
mental obstacles for me.
Yeah, I'm a white female, so I have no experience with this sort of thing, but I'll bet that's probably not an uncommon fear for minorities in science or grad school in general.
Mm-hmm. And the kicker was, I grew up in an upper middle class white neighborhood. We weren't much of the upper, but we were there, and we had great schools. My brother and I, my sister, we went to awesome places, and we had some friends from similar backgrounds, but not many. It was a mostly white town, and the school I went to wasn't the most diverse, but I met other friends. But I guess the take home is that I wasn't constantly surrounded by people who looked like me. I have a few friends from similar backgrounds, but it wasn't the only thing I hung out with.
Right.
I hung out with people from all different backgrounds.
Right.
And at the same time, I still didn't have many friends who looked like me going to grad school or going to these other research things. And so it's always been in the back of my mind. Am I only here because...
Oh, no.
I know that, but it's something that you have to actively say no about, right? So I guess this kind of goes into how do we deal with imposter syndrome? How do we deal with the feeling that I'm only here because of some kind of chance?
Well, you have to go back and look at the facts, and for you have all these fantastic awards that you have earned in grad school, and they were not just given to you, and the ultra prestigious Tom Sahavi Award.
Tom Sahavi Award.
Which is, I think all grad students at Princeton would love to have that on their resume. And you got it. And it didn't just happen magically. You worked really hard for it.
And I guess I like that award. It's an award for graduate student advocacy. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, part of me is like, I don't know if I deserve it.
Jason.
Because I've seen people like our great friend Chet, who we mentioned in the last podcast.
Should get permission to use Chet's real name.
Oh, Chet is his real name, as far as I'm concerned. He texted me today. I'm going to text him back. Your name is Chet now. But he got it.
Yeah.
Our
other friend.
Our friend Adam got it.
Wait, so we can use Adam's name,
I don't
but
even
not
know
Chet's
real name. Dante, who is one of my personal heroes.
Total rock stars get it, and
these people who I've actually look up to as model.
Oh, you stinker! I group you into that same category.
But it's awesome that you do.
But you're on the fellowship board. You do all this great stuff. You started this podcast.
I know.
So go fight, win.
I know.
We're not morons.
We're not morons. And I hate...
And we shouldn't be
and
imposters.
I do recognize that I do try to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's always in that context of my mental wrapped upness of like, but yeah, it's just me doing this.
Yeah, it's like the
someone else could do it better.
Yeah.
Someone
else could do it different, not necessarily better.
Wow, that is deep. I like that. That sound was also deep. Oh boy. So yeah, discussion time. So how do
I don't know if it's something you're ever gonna get over.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think maybe it was the first podcast Abigail shared that quote from her dad. It's something like past successes are not a guarantee. Boy, am I mangling this, Mr. Charbach.
See, I don't do quotes because I just mangle things.
Oh, jeez. It's like past success is not an indicator of future success. It's more eloquent than that. Perhaps...
Maybe it's past failures are no indicator of future success.
Something like that. About, like, don't rest on your laurels. But he said it a lot better in, like, this great... Here's an SAT word. Avuncular way.
I believe that's part of the thymus.
No. Sorry. Jesus.
I don't know.
No, it's like a cool uncle type vibe. If that's what avuncular means.
That's what your SAT guide said.
I think it might have been my Jerry guide. Whatever. This like great, it's like cool sort of like vibe. Dad, grandpa, uncle vibe.
Okay.
All right. Said this to Abigail, and I think that's true. But if you have even a twinge of imposter syndrome, you are going to have to look back and say, I've accomplished X, Y, and Z, and it's been really great. So these fears that I have now are not totally founded. I think some amount of fear and sort of desire to continue moving forward in your life and doing good things is necessary, but you should be able to take comfort in the fact that you've succeeded at really cool things in the past, and it's not like maybe one was an accident, but it was like 7 or 8 impressive things all stacked up. It's like, all right, this is now a trend. This is the P's less than...
An accidental trend.
No, it's not an accidental trend. P's less than 0.05.
But still above 0.
You're never going to get P at 0.
I'm outside of the standard deviations with my luck.
No.
No, that's true, though. I've gotten through a lot of the biggest feelings of imposter syndrome from just hanging out with you and our friends in grad school from, like, day one. And I'm really glad that we all took the choice to live in the grad student dorms.
Oh, man. How great
only
is that?
because we were placed around each other...
Yeah,
way too much
together. Yes.
But there were times we just sat down and had a beer, or at the fireplace, which that's so Princeton sounding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, at the fireplace.
We were our brandy snifters. Yeah,
we sure did.
Yeah.
I even forgot my smoking robe. And you had an extra
smoking jacket.
Smoking jacket.
With the
I don't belong here.
Oh yeah. No, get out of here.
But yeah, just being honest with my friends, like. I totally failed that Prox test.
I think everyone thinks that, but no one does.
Well, that's the point. Yeah.
Right. I'm sure classes and exams in every grad school are hard. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing them, you're looking at these questions, it's like, there's no effing way I'm going to be able to answer this even close. And some of them I totally bombed, but you end up passing. So
passing enough.
Passing enough.
And if you don't pass enough, they let you know.
Yeah, really. They will let you know.
I hope. I think.
We're in too deep. We're in way too deep. Yeah. They can't retrieve the application from the shredder.
Yeah. It's has to do.
Yeah.
They'll get you at Generals.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what else do we do to get around imposter syndrome? I think that was the main way, was just having a really good support system with actually knowing that people were on the same level, as opposed to just projecting them being on these pedestals of knowledge and superiority. I said that word. Sometimes it's hard for me to say. Podcasting. That's why I chose. I say words good and stuff.
Good things and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize almost everyone's having the same thoughts.
Everyone's in the same boat, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Even those brilliant people that you see.
Right.
They've had the thought. Some of them. Some of them have thought of the thought.
We'll just tell ourselves that.
Yeah. It might also play into a self-perception thing where you think... So you think you're less than, you're not as great at science, for example.
Yeah.
But then you're afraid to ask for help because you don't want to seem like the dumb one.
Yep.
And then this kind of can go down the negative...
Yeah, the sad route.
Very sad, negative route. And that's why it's important to be honest with your friends and just have these conversations, because you'll find out that your colleagues, the people you work with all the time, have had similar thoughts.
Right.
You're in the same boat. You're not alone. You're not just the one person who...
You're not the outlier.
You're not the outlier. Some other... No.
Some other schmo's the outlier.
Odds are, if you're taking the initiative to listen to this podcast and, go through the self-improvement techniques and figure out what your strengths are and your weaknesses are and improve your research quality and all this other stuff, you're trying, and that's
half the battle.
That's half the battle. It really is.
Probably more than half.
Yeah. Like, the worst days I have in research are when I roll into lab and I'm not motivated.
Yeah, there's no game. There's nothing on the agenda.
Nothing's working.
Because you didn't put it there.
Because I didn't take the step to actually...
write the thing.
Yeah. The thing that helps me recover from imposter syndrome the best is actually right now when I'm applying to jobs and I actually look at my CV or resume.
It's like, oh, I haven't been digging around this whole time.
Yeah.
I've been doing stuff.
Yeah. The resume helps a little more for me because I can write things I've actually done in a way that doesn't make it sound like my research is completely half-failed.
No.
Half the time.
It's secret learning.
Secret learning, yes.
It's not a research failure, it's secret learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a resume is nice because then it's all bullet pointed. You don't even have to make a whole sentence. Say, I figured this out next.
Yeah. So it's a really good way to... And I encourage you, even if you're not looking for jobs right now, just write up a CV document and be constantly updating it. And that way when you actually do achieve something or you've had some kind of result that you can write up, just throw it down your CV right then and there. And that way you won't forget it. And you can always look back at it and be like, I have gotten stuff done. Yeah.
Almost related to that is when I'm away from science or writing or whatever it is, I get sort of like a lab guilt.
Oh, yes. Lab guilt.
Lab guilt. And if I'm sitting in front of it and doing the task, it's not that bad. But when I'm away from it, it seems like an insurmountable monster that's never going to get accomplished. And if you're a Doctor Who fan, it's like the Weeping Angels. When you're looking at them, they're not moving and bothering you. And then when you turn your back on them, that's when they kill you. So
I think that's an episode I actually have watched, and I'm not a Doctor Who.
I think it's called Blink. It's a good episode if you are just getting into Doctor Who.
I am not.
Let's derail the whole thing.
Alright. Fooled you guys now. Nerdcast.
This long con, now it's a Doctor Who podcast.
That won't last long. How much do you want to talk about Doctor Who? I don't know anything.
I don't know enough.
Stupid robot things are the bad guys.
Daleks.
Stupid.
The bad guys.
They need to
They're
upgrade that.
Stupid. Right, but it's this... It's not a fear of uncertainty when you're not focusing on the exact task at hand. I'm not sure how to describe that feeling the best. Oh, yeah, here, don't talk into the ceiling.
Don't talk into the ceiling. Talk into the microphone.
Talking to the microphone? Yeah.
Oh, look, we got levels
sound.
now.
I'm not sure how to describe that sort of I guess it's anxiety when you're away from the task you know you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you sit back down in front of it, and for me, most recently, this was writing my thesis. Like, even just going out and running errands, it's like, I should be writing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wasting time, and then you go back and you sit down and you're like, oh, I'm adding to my page count every day. Like, this is not, I'm not just treading water, I'm actually moving forward.
Mm.
So if you have something like that,
I have something like that right now.
it's called also a thesis or a paper.
Oh,
all of it.
Yeah, I'm like running into that problem where I sit down for a little bit, and right now I'm like trying to get my figures in order so I can actually write about it.
Yeah.
But still, it's that idea of this task that's so big, and
yeah,
I don't know, you gotta chip away at it. But once you start working on it,
right,
you see that you're progressing, and so it's not so bad, but you've built it up in your mind so much.
That it becomes terrifying.
Yeah.
It took me, let's see, I started my thesis mid-January, and then handed it to my readers at the beginning of July. So I chipped away at it for a long time, and I made like a little spreadsheet of, all right, here's the page count per day, and as long as that was increasing, and it's a slow increase, then it was good. I would give myself permission to relax.
Oh, that's pretty good. You are way better off than me.
I think I would have taken a lot longer to finish, because I was writing and doing science at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I do not like writing, so I had to temper it with still coming in and just looking at a slide on the microscope, and which is a weird way to relax as a scientist.
There's
do more science.
Nothing weird about scientists. You take that back.
No.
So did imposter syndrome creep into your thesis writing?
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
There's some requirements, like formatting type requirements for a thesis at Princeton, and then it's just sort of like freehand.
Do what you want.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like, you can have however many chapters.
Times New Roman, 12 font.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Or you could do Arial 11.
Oh, yeah. No.
I'm a Times New Roman kind of gal, but I started with the easy stuff, like, okay, here's where chapter 1 is going to go after this page, and I started with my acknowledgments, just to have something on in the Word document. Mm-hmm. And probably I started there because I was impostering myself into thinking I couldn't talk about science. But eventually you run out of all those formatting things, and you have to...
Eventually you have to do that, or not
staple
graduate.
your butt to the chair and write it.
Yeah. It's good to have to. Yeah. It's good to have a required thing to do.
Yeah.
Something forcing you.
Yeah.
Or not doing anything at all. If those are your options, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having to write your thesis, or just sit around and never graduate.
Yeah, and I think some people's end of grad school probably sounds like that, but I know it can end a lot of different ways. Of working feverishly up until the end, and or having everything work perfectly, and you just button up this nice document and hand it over, and it's easy. Which, that was not me. So.
Yeah, that is not going to be me either. I can tell you from experience right now.
From experience I have yet to experience, that's not going to be me.
Yes, not me. So to wrap up all this, what we just said.
All of this.
Nice
okay, so
discussion.
imposter syndrome, odds are you're not actually an imposter.
Let's just say, let's take out the odds. You are not an imposter.
Okay, yeah, true. If you're listening to this, you are either in grad school or considering coming to grad school, or...
You've been, or you're just interested in hearing about the lives of grad students. If we are doing that, let us know, because that's...
That's sad.
Yeah, you have a problem, man.
Or you might be our friends who are interested in hearing us embarrass ourselves on the internet.
Friends. Yeah.
The dozens of them.
The dozens. You're one of our dozens of friends.
So, yeah, you're not the outlier.
Yeah.
Or you are. Wait, no.
No, you're not. You're not an imposter.
Wait, you're not an imposter. You're probably an outlier from the general population in that you're good at what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're you're going to succeed if you're taking the effort to try and figure this nonsense out.
Mm-hmm.
And all of your classmates have no idea what they're doing either. Just remember that.
Yeah.
Unless you're Jess. That woman is like
Yeah.
Yoda. That's Yoda.
Thanks to Haley, who stuck around after the mental health episode to record this conversation. If you have any comments about imposter syndrome, stop by phdinprogress.com/17 or /imposter to leave comments. You can also find show notes there with the links to a bunch of articles on the topic. We started something new. So far, all of the funding for this show has come out of my own pocket. To help cover the costs, I've started a Patreon campaign where you can pledge to help out the show. I've also placed a PayPal donation button on the site. The show will always be free, but if you'd like to help cover the costs associated with the program, as well as improve the quality of our show, please consider contributing via patreon.com/PhDpodcast or PayPal. Another great way to support the show is to leave a review in the iTunes store. This is very important because it boosts visibility of our show. Please take 30 seconds to leave an honest rating and review. We'd really appreciate it. iTunes user DGR2 left a 5-star review saying, "I'd recommend this podcast to any current or prospective grad students. The speakers always keep the topics fresh and interesting. My only complaint is that while there were 2 episodes about finding non-academic jobs after school, there hasn't been anything yet about pursuing postdoctoral or tenure track positions. Thanks for the review, and we'll be working on getting a postdoc episode together soon." Finally, we're very active on Twitter at PhD Podcast, so say hi to us there or email us at feedback@phdinprogress.com. As always, all this information and everything we mentioned in the show can be found at phdinprogress.com.
And
You're even impostoring yourself right now.
Yes. No, I know. This is the terrible part of it, though.